What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Ignore the sign. For some reason, it says week 11 and it's not letting me edit it, but it is week 12. We have a nice slate, a nice 10 gamer. Feels like sort of compacted, and I feel like there's going to be pretty heavy chalk. I also feel like, and we'll get Rody in here in a minute to talk about it. Unfortunately, no sheets today. He's had family stuff going on, but we'll get Rody in here to talk about it once he's ready to go. Rody, there he is.
Yeah, we're here. Yeah,
all right,
we're good to go.
So I was just saying some sort of overall thoughts, looking at this slate. It's we don't have a lot of value at receiver. There's going to be pretty obvious spend downs at running back. And it's going to be an interesting one to try to get a little bit different on. So I'm kind of curious to go through this slate for you. Any overall takes before we get into position by position and then talk about some stacks and whatnot?
Yeah, I know we got that lower. I kind of like the mid-range running back and the mid-range receiver a little bit. I think like the 6K running back's not spending down to like what the guys we'll talk about here in a minute, but like you can get some decent running backs this week. I think it's a really strong running back pool. So really you got to hit it at your receiver, and depend on if you want to spend up at tight end or spend down at tight end is one of your biggest decisions this week. But we'll get after it here. We'll start with QBs and stacks and we'll move on. So all
yeah,
right.
I go so far as even to say that at running back, at tight end, I think is like probably one of the bigger decisions at the slate. We've got guys with huge upside that are cheaper than we're used to seeing: Laporta, Hawkinson. And look, it may have worked out a certain way so far this year. There's been some injuries and whatnot, but like, I don't know. I think that's going to be a very important position to get right as well, along with running back as usual. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. For me, there's like 4 games that I'm targeting, but mostly it's heaviest on one. So what are you getting at quarterback? Who are your highest owned, and what are you looking at right now?
Yeah, quarterback's tough for me today. Obviously Jaden Daniels projects the best today on the slate. I just usually start with that, but we got to get different today. I'm looking at like Tua to be different. Geno and Anthony Richardson are the other cheap guys that are kind of chalky at 10% ownership. I'm looking at Tua. He's next down there about 6-ish. But like I like him at 5,800 a lot today. I think that Hill Jonnu Smith stack's kind of nice. I want to get to Mahomes in that game, but like I just don't know what to do. I like his stacking options and no run back on this. This is a kind of interesting week where we got a lot of blowout totals going on, like KC, Washington. Even the closest game I'd probably say are my Dolphins again in Detroit. Closest game's probably that Arizona Seattle, which I like Kyler Murray as well on the other side. I don't know if he'll make I kind of like that game total, but I don't want to play it. I just weird. There's some rain there, so I'm kind of going with Tua as my main, I think, and then I really want to try to get to CJ Stroud and Jordan Love for some reason to this week. Very low owned QBs. One is playing in the Dome, right? It's at Houston. So that's a good game environment too that we're forgetting about. Titans have been a decent defense, but I'm really thinking Houston blows the doors off one of these days and stop fiddling around. Maybe they realize they keep getting these close games and just score points. So, and then I like the Love game with San Francisco. No Purdy in that game. You got Allen and DeVito as a couple cheap options this week. And if you want to go with the Sims play, the cheap play is Gardner Minshew, who's really popping in the Sims a lot today. Those are some of the cheap options, but I'm kind of staying in that mid range. I don't know if I want to spend a Daniels, but I like these other guys around that 6K-ish range that I like today.
Yeah, one of my bold predictions that Gardner Minshew doesn't play the second half of this game.
Really?
I think they're going to get roughed up. I really do. I think this is the 5.5 could easily be 6.5, 7.5, 8.5. I think Denver's going to beat the hell out of the Raiders, but that's just my take. And I kind of feel that way every week with the Raiders. So with mixed results, I understand that it's fairly chalky. I said it early in the week. I'm not changing my mind. Richardson is my highest owned quarterback. I'm not really getting away from that. I don't think there's a reason to. I think that it's too cheap for his upside. He could get there in garbage time too. If Detroit does just beat the hammer, like put the hammer down and gets up 31-7 or whatever, I still think you could get some garbage time stuff from Richardson. It's a little bit of a funny matchup for him because Detroit is very good at not giving up big plays, and Richardson relies a lot on big plays. However, 5,600 for his rushing upside, that for me is number one. I'm with you on Tua. I have Tua as my third highest owned behind Geno. And I'm forcing in Stroud. I have 9% Stroud, 9% Kyler Murray. Those two feel a little bit like too low owned to me. And then I've got a bunch of, the kind of the crappy ones, but I love the idea of sort of flipping the Joe Mixon will run all over Tennessee and maybe playing Stroud in the passing game in that one. Also, remember, they've added so many rushing touchdowns. I think if they are able to control the game, I think they're going to try to get some specifically for Stroud. He also had that one called back last week. So I do like the Stroud idea, but Richardson is my number one guy. And I'm all over that Detroit Indianapolis game, just hoping that we see another crazy performance from Detroit. And I'd like to be getting to a little bit more of the running backs, which we'll transition over to running back now. Where are you at with the running backs on this slate?
I like the mid tier that I said. Sorry, I was trying to post our link was wrong on our Twitter page. Our link was wrong because it did say that week 11, Bobby. So I fixed all the links.
Oh, I appreciate that.
We're looking good now. Also, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here. Don't forget to do that. As we get to the running backs, we got an interesting running back slate. I really like the running backs today. Obviously, you got the top guys, like the expensive guys like Mixon, CMC, and Achane, but you really got a good drop off under that 7K range with three guys that I really like on Kenneth Walker, James Conner, and Josh Jacobs. So if you're not playing the maybe Jordan Love side, you might want to think it's a Josh Jacobs type of game today. He's coming in around 11-ish%. You got the two guys that we talked about in the beginning of the show, like Kareem Hunt at 5,700 and Brian Robinson at 5,600. Those guys kind of make things work for you a little bit. But you can still get to these 68, 65, 6,900 guys and still feel good about your lineup today. Then we should probably talk about the Lions running backs. They've been killing it, both Gibbs and Montgomery. Montgomery is in that same 6-7 price tag that we kind of like. And if you want to take some shots at other guys, I don't mind a Bucky Irving at 5,300 in that game. I kind of like that game a little bit. You got Tyrone Tracy in that same game at 6K. And remember, the Bucs started the season a good rush defense, and they've kind of fallen off to the mid-pack now. So Tracy's been getting a lot of work, and he's a viable play. They're going to be kind of lost there for the Giants. So, you don't know where they're going to go this week. They're kind of let down spot. They're falling apart. But that's kind of who I like. I'm going to really stay tight with those main guys and Walker, Conner, and Jacobs. Probably a lot of Kareem Hunt too.
Yeah, I have, I'm basically like with the field on Robinson and Hunt this week. I don't think that, again, maybe a little below the field on Hunt, but I do have them as two of my highest owned. I like Achane quite a bit. And I, as you mentioned, the Detroit running backs, I'm well over on Gibbs and Montgomery. Even if I ended up with them together, they can get there in certain matchups. And I think this is one of them. I like Kenneth Walker, as you mentioned as well, I believe. Joe Mixon, I'm a little bit below the field, but another double-digit owned guy I've got. And I'm trying to get more and more of McCaffrey. I actually feel like I understand he hasn't looked good, but I feel like this is maybe a mistake that we're not just going way, way over on McCaffrey personally. That's just my take. Other guys I'm getting to double digits. I have 10% of Josh Jacobs, but again, probably below the field on that one. I mentioned Connor, Mixon, and you mentioned Irving. I kind of like Rashad White as a little bit of a contrarian play. I know Irving's been getting a lot of the carries lately, and I'm well under on the Amir Abdullah chalk. I understand it because the price. I not that I say I won't have any of it, but I just feel like it doesn't have to be him. I don't care who's now named the starting running back. I also don't like them very much in that game. So yeah, I'll get to some of it, but it's not a priority for me to get a bunch of Abdullah, which the field seems to be pretty heavily on. I also wanted to mention that one pivot off of the Brian Robinson. So where I don't have him, I have some Eckler. I think it's an interesting, just to go a little contrarian with that way. So yeah, a lot of plays. It's a good running back slate, as you mentioned, and trying to find ways to get different. But I think the best place to get different is at wide receiver. So we'll transition over to wide receiver, and I'll ask you what you're looking at over there.
Yeah, I don't. Bobby, did you go over a quarterback? Did you say your quarterbacks?
Yeah, I said my guys.
Oh, okay.
I'm the highest on Richardson. Then I have
Yeah,
Richardson.
that's right. That's right. I feel like I missed your stacks or something. We probably haven't talked stacks, but
I'll talk stacks at the end, but it's
yeah,
mostly
usually you want to do stacks at the end all the time. So yeah,
yeah.
my bad. I'm a little
No,
off
no,
today.
no worries.
A lot coming. Yeah, back to receiver. Receiver's an interesting one. There's a few spend up options we don't, we might want to get to. Like I'm on St. Brown's been killing it. Jefferson is there in this game. CD Lamb's price has dropped. I know he doesn't have Dak, obviously. He's showing to be owned a lot in some of the sims and stuff, but some sites have him lower ownership. Some sites have him at 30. I don't know where he's going to fall, but I'm kind of probably lower on him if he's going to be chalky. I kind of like to spend up as Nico Collins. I think last week he had a big touchdown. He would be more chalky this week. I think if that touchdown, 90-yard touchdown would have counted. I think they were just weeding him back in last week. I think he's a full go this week. They got to win games. This is
Yep.
one they want, easy one to win. They need to just fire it away. Then if you get to this mid tier after that top two, well, I should mention one more higher up guy, Tyreek Hill at 7,200. I know everyone was playing him for a while. Then he hasn't really looked good. He's got a wrist injury, but I really like the Dolphins this week, and I think I'm going to play them in one of my main stacks. So far as the cheaper guys, we like Sutton at 5.8, Jacoby Myers at 5.1. I think he's more of an optimal play, maybe less upside with Jacoby Myers, and then obviously Bobby thinks Minshew might not play the second half, so that could really hurt Myers.
Well, I was just throwing it out there more meaning that I think the Denver's going to take care of them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball, so I kind of like the Myers play, but maybe more cash or sprinkle in GBP. Maybe the upside is a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Smith, the Jigba's got a lot of upside. He's had the big game. They're in a big game that we like, a high-paced game this week. But obviously DK is back, and he's priced about the same, so he could do good. I do like Tank Dell 6,400. I still think that Houston team rolls today, and I like getting some of them. Some other cheaper guys like Hopkins at 5.4. I think he's in a great spot this week in low ownership. Jaden Reed, he keeps getting, no love, and he's only 5,900 this week. I really like that. The chalk play was Jawan Jennings, and he's kind of come down since, no Purdy now with Allen throwing him. And Jawan Jennings has looked really good for 5,600. If you think that game stays close and Allen's chucking it to the weapons, then Jawan Jennings is going to get some looks. Then you got Pittman in that Lions game. We all think Indy, like you like Richardson. Pittman's only 5,300. Maybe he has a good game again. He's low owned. I think he's viable. And then Romeo Dobbs, another cheap Green Bay guy that I like at 4,600. He's down in price. Jalen Waddle down in price at 5,300 if you like that. And Bobby mentioned Vele in the chat at 3,900. He's a cheap option if you need a value play. Roman Duze 4,800 is a good value play, getting a lot more targets from Williams now. He's a good value play. And I think there's one, Booty for 3,500 for New England if you want to run back a cheap play in that Miami game. So
yeah,
I listed a lot of guys, but
you
kind of going through my list and kind of guys and giving you guys insight on why you want to play this guy or that guy, a little bit in your stacks.
No, I think there was a lot. It was helpful though. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys to consider, but I love that right now my two highest owned receivers are not getting ownership, and that's two guys you mentioned, Nico Collins and Tyreek Hill. Those are the two that I'm heaviest on. I actually feel like there's got to be like a trend up. Like I bet you if we get updated projections right before, like I just have a feeling Nico Collins can't be this low owned. Feels like a big mistake to me. So I really like Collins. I really like Tyreek Hill. I'm going to throw another one at you that I've got 15% of right now. But why is no one on Mike Evans? Like if it was just a regular week and we just heard all of a sudden that we had no why can't I think of the name of the other? Godwin. Like it was just like a normal and everything had been going along. Why is no one playing Mike Evans?
Yeah, I mean, they did say he's a full go. He's not going to be limited either, in that game. I did do a Baker, Mike Evans, and Cade Otton stack with Tyrone Tracy, like a neighbor's run back game stack of that game, just in case it goes nuclear. But I mean, I'm not getting a lot of Mike Evans, but I think he's a great play. I think you're right to play him. I think, Baker was top scoring team for a while with Mike Evans, Kadon, and Godwin there week after week. So they're getting some weapons back, and they could be. It's a good matchup for him today too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good play that I just don't feel like no one's really on that one as much. As cheap guys go, there's not a lot of value as a receiver, which we usually have this time of year. So I had to have I have Vele as one of the guys I'm willing to eat a little bit of the chalk with. I'm going to be below the field on Myers, which is not to say I won't have a good amount of them. I'm just not going to have 35% of them. I still am going to have a decent amount. I like both Metcalf and Smith and Jigba. I'm into that Seattle Arizona game. I understand it's a little bit rainy. No big deal for me. Seattle's always a little bit rainy. The other ones I'm getting to is, again, I like Richardson, and I don't mind pairing him. I know Pittman's been a disappointment this season, but I'm getting to some of that. I'm getting to some of the Josh Downs. I like getting overweight Terry McLaurin, another low-owned receiver that I think has plenty of upside. And basically with the field on Amon-Ra St. Brown around 20%. And then CeeDee Lamb, I'll be below the field, which still will be around, I'll still have around 20%. But definitely didn't want to be playing all the chalk. And I liked your Hopkins call. I think Hopkins could be a sneaky play at 5,400. One other guy to spend down on for me was Noah Brown. And I'd like to get to more Ridley than what I currently have. And I actually think I'm going to edit so I do. On FanDuel, I have more of him because he's looks really good over there. But I'd like to get to a little bit more Calvin Ridley. So those are basically my main guys for right now. Let's move it over to tight end, Brody. What are you doing over there? There's spend downs, there's spend ups, there's spend in the middle. What are you looking at tight end?
Yeah, this position's probably the make it or break it decision on if you get a guy with 30 points today or 5. So might be the decision of the slate. I want to drop one comment before I go into my tight ends. For what it's worth, I was running some lineups for this 5.55 million. I ran some sims, and I am getting a lot of DeVito, Smith, Richardson, and some of these cheaper guys as quarterbacks. When we get on to stacks, I guess later, even Allen in that $555 price thing. So I'll ask you at the end of the show what you got. I know you got 3 entries in that today, so kind of what you're doing. But on the tight ends, we're going to talk about a few guys that I really like today. Obviously, the spend-up options are really good in Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, and even Trey McBride in that game we really like. And Trey McBride is actually like 6 to 10% owned, somewhere in there. Probably he's going to fall, and that's pretty good for a guy we like. He gets a lot of dump-offs, a lot of usage, and I think he can shred today. I really like him. I'm going to probably add a more Murray stacks in today with McBride. I like Jonnu Smith at 4,100. He's going to be with my Tua combo with Hill. I really like him. He's getting a lot of usage. He's not as owned as I thought he would be. I really like that. I also like, obviously, Hunter Henry. You can run it back if you do a Miami stack. You don't want to play Smith. You can run it back with him. He's going to be most chalk probably, and him and Travis Kelce, I think, today. But I like that. I really like Sam Laporta at 4,300. His price dropped in a really good game environment today. I think Sam Laporta is going to get involved today a lot more than he's been. Get him going. Tucker Kraft at 3,900, still with the Packers stack. I like that. That's a very cheap stack. Reed, Tucker, Love. I really like that today. Schultz, you can go with Stroud too if you don't want to do the Nico Tank Dell, what I talked about in my playbook. You could do. I think Schultz. I always pair Schultz and like Nico or something like that. I really like that. 3,500 is a really good price tag. But the cheapest guy on the slate today is probably the better play for optimals or cash is Luke Shoemaker at 2,500. Is getting a lot of work for the Dallas. He's been quite involved. I mean, he's not coming in that high owned. I thought he would be a lot higher owned.
It feels weird with that, right?
I know everyone seems like they want to play the Kelce and the Bowers. I mean, my optimal currently has Bowers over him, so I don't need the salary as much. So I'm playing up at tight end, but I really like him today at 2,500. If you want to pay down and get a value spend there, that's a good option. And then for one guy I forgot to mention, Kate Allen, which we did talk about a second ago. He's a low owned play. He's a 30-point upside score for the Bucks. With Evans back, he'll open up the field a little bit more. Otten in the middle against the Giants. I really think that's a solid stack that Bobby just mentioned well just now. I think I should add a little bit more to that as the show goes on. I probably add a little more Bucks. I know some other guys that were texting me they're on the Bucks today too. So that's a good stack to be on today, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that idea. I have Schoonmaker, and it's because of the ownership is showing as low that I have him as my highest owned tight end, but not far behind him. And I have a lot of double tight end builds today because there's not value at receiver. So why not play Laporta and Hawkinson is the way I'm looking at it. I really like both of them today. Hawkinson's ownership has come up a little bit, but it's not as high as I think it should be. And I like the Laporta pivot. Also, Jonnu would be my next guy, followed by Kelsey. I'm not getting to near the field on Bowers, but I am going to have some Bowers. Also got to some Dalton Schultz. Again, I like the idea of playing that Houston passing game fully healthy. And in general, we know historically the way to beat Tennessee is usually through the air. Getting to a little McBride. But I have a lot of tight ends in my pool because I'm like I said, I'm double tight ending, and then Hunter Henry is the other one I wanted to mention. Sneaky Drake May stacks today. I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's the one guy that I was going to build an extra lineup for. Now you reminded me.
Oh,
someone
shoot.
said him earlier, and I keep thinking of a guy I need to add more to, and it was Drake May. And now
just seems like the floor is solid, right? Like he's good. He's going to be. He can move the ball. He can run. I just feel like 200 yards and maybe like 50 rushing seems very possible, and maybe he runs 1 or 2 in. You never know. I think that's totally on the table for a game in Miami that I still can't figure out what the hell, because Miami's been playing like a little slower and a little more timid offensively. They've been running the ball. It's not been the Tua show, but it feels like a game that might be a sneaky shootout. For what it's worth, and we'll get into stacks in a little bit, but I have 3 games that I forced in stack exposure, and after 4 games, and that is my number 2, tied with Arizona and Seattle. Anyway, but yeah, a tight end I think is a good position and a very important one to get right today. So yeah, and you mentioned before talking about the 555. For what it's worth, in the 555s, 2 of mine might be Richardson, but either way, they're going to have at least a run, one on each side of Indianapolis and Detroit. And the play I didn't mention earlier was, you don't run the ball on Detroit. It's not the thing to do, but I could see like Jonathan Taylor, if they're able to move the ball. I guess it's sort of like my hedge off of the Richardson ownership that I have. All right, let's talk about defenses. Then we'll get to stacks, and we'll take any questions. Any guys pop in any questions or thoughts you have on the slate. We're happy to go over anything. I'm still messing with my builds, but I'm I'm fine tuning a little bit what we do. I always like to use this show and then sort of put my final takes in on what we decide. But I was initially getting way too much of certain defenses, so I did cap a lot of mine. What are you getting at defense, Rody?
I haven't ran my final MME build. I assume the Packers are going to be quite a bit. They're going to be pretty chalk. The Bucs look to be pretty chalky. Giants even chalky. I guess it's kind of spread out with some chalk. Actually, I did run a build. Actually, let me see what it is. Packers mostly. Raiders, Dolphins. I did like the Dolphins a little bit. I'm pretty mixed. Maybe the Giants for cheap. I'm having a hard time finding a cheap defense that I really like this week, besides the Packers at 2,800. I think another viable one I did drop down to today. It's like, why are these guys so expensive? I forgot I switched over to FanDuel. I was looking at some FanDuel. I know we had some FanDuel questions. Maybe we talk FanDuel for a minute. But I was trying to see another one I liked was, I think, the Giants at 2,400 isn't bad. I do like the Bucs a lot in that game, but that doesn't mean say Baker don't throw a pick 6 or something. Titans, even in that game at 2,300, I use them. So even the Cowboys, I use them. Jay Daniels runs around, fumbles. You never know. Pick up fumble, strip sack fumble, any game. So I really sprinkle my defenses in, and that's why I tell you guys in the playbook too. I kind of mix and match. I almost play almost every team, almost even just to get exposure a little bit, just in case something weird happens. You got that 22 point defense, and you don't want to not have any of it. So.
Yeah, I get that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm a little spread out at defense as you're mentioning, but right now I have the Bucs, the Bears, the Dolphins, and the Packers, all fairly chalky-ish ones. And then the ones that I'm forcing in is, I don't know why, and I'm actually going to go a little higher on this. Why aren't the Broncos the top projected defense here? I might be too in love with the Broncos. They got a little bit of a Bronco problem here.
You might be, because a lot of the sims are on the freaking Raiders, man. I don't know, man.
Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know what it is, but these Broncos, I've watched them play because they play the afternoon game, so I feel like I watch them a little closer than I do most teams. I think they're really good. Everybody can have a letdown game or whatever in the NFL, but I just feel like they are going to be after Minshew, and hopefully, they're playing, every game for them is playing for their playoff lives. They have to take care of business today. So I'm very into that one personally. What are you looking for as far as game stacks? Are you finding yourself with builds that are, one with nothing running back? Are you finding yourself I'm focused a little more on game stacks today myself. So what are you looking at as far as stacks?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a traditional DFS player where I focus like you did. You focus more on the game stacks. That's kind of why I want to play some games that are game stackable, but then I'm thinking I like Houston when I don't know who to run it back for Tennessee. Oh, wait, Ridley's there. So that's not a bad run back. Then you like Green Bay. You got all those run backs in San Francisco, Jennings, CMC, everybody we talked about. Miami, that was one of the ones I like a lot. But then you got Hunter Henry, you got Demario Douglas. You could probably, and Stevenson's cheap at 5,900 there if you think that game does stay close. But yeah, there's a lot of blowout games. That's kind of why I don't like Jaden Daniels' game as much. CD Lamb, if he is chalky, a lot of people are going to run it back with him. And then, I'm kind of off that game a little bit more because I don't really like the run backs. Tampa Bay Bucks, you got Neighbors, you got a couple guys you can run it back with there. So I kind of like that stack. Indy, Detroit game, I don't know who to run it back with as much there either. We got a lot of different weapons for Detroit. But you got Pittman, Downs, the main guys for Indy, and then you can just pick whatever guy to run it back. We didn't talk about JMO. He's been fantastic this year lately.
I'm over the field on him. I should have mentioned that one.
I know you mentioned the Lions, but we didn't really mention specific on. I figured you were way over on that game. You said you like that.
Yeah.
So JMO's, but they got so many guys, both running backs. JMO, Amon, a Laporta that I liked. I actually did a golf JMO Laporta stack. I kind of like that with like a Pittman run back in that game. So I do game stack quite a bit. Those are kind of some of the ones I'm leaning towards mostly. That Arizona Seahawks game, I like the game stack that heavy. I like James Conner. I like the like Smith. I like Lockett even. I'll play Lockett even, So and then K9 Walker we mentioned in the chat we really like as well.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe did you have any specifics on FanDuel you want to talk about? I know K9 chat has.
I think it's worth trying to get if you're playing on FanDuel. I think it's worth trying to get exposure to the late game. I think you can run a little bit on my Rams, unfortunately. So if you want to spend up and it's not going to be that high ownership is because the price is Barkley. But I like both Puka and Cup. I like Cup better as always, but it's literally you could flip a coin and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong. And K9 asked about that one earlier in chat. I actually do think that having some Stafford stacks is a pretty good idea. So I'm totally for it. That's where I'm at. Let's see. Somebody says, Real says, looking at Schefter's tweet 15 minutes ago about SF's D line complete change. Any Josh Jacobs considering how many rush hits? Yeah, absolutely. We talked about Jacobs a little bit earlier. I probably will be below the field, but I'll be double-digit ownership still on him. I have him like 15% right now. Where are you at? You're going to have some Jacobs, right?
Yeah, I like Jacobs as one of my guy. I like the passing game. I like a lot of Jaden Reed because of his price, but Jacobs I'm getting a decent amount of as well. Over double his ownership probably roughly because he's kind of lower owned actually. It might come up though.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it might come up a little bit, but I really like Jacobs today. I think that's good. Maybe I put him in my Houston stack, and on the other side of that, my love stack. So I like that a lot. I just don't know about that. Also, I don't know about that late game on FanDuel. Usually, I've been stacking it every week. It's been working out. My blitz lineup last week, I was in like 4,000 place. The late game started, and I ended up in 72nd in the blitz on that
really
contest. So I moved up quite a bit. It would have been nice to get another Chase Brown touchdown on that. It was chalky, but keep that game going a little bit. I had some bets and stuff in that game. I needed a Brown touchdown, but yeah, so that game was just so expensive today. You would think you would really like that game.
It's hard to get there.
Wow. FanDuel went the opposite way. DraftKings. The DraftKings kind of come down on their pricing this week, so we're feeling good about our lineups on DraftKings. FanDuel, you're making a lineup. You're like, wow, A.J. Brown is a really good play. I think he's optimal. 8,500 with no Devontae Smith. Maybe Goddard in that. I don't know what price Goddard is in that game. 6,100. It's not terrible.
No, there's just a lot of tight ends.
You could maybe do the Hurts side stack and run it back, but man, you're going to be 93. Yeah. Maybe you could do the Stafford to Coop or Cup and Nakua, run it back with Goddard or Brown or something and still make a decent lineup. But yeah, it's tough over there in that streets. I don't know. Geno Smith's really popping over there. It's at 7,400, but what I'm seeing. So, yeah, even Love's over only 7,300 over there. So there's a couple good options. I think DeVito's 6K. So that's where the cheap quarterbacks fall there. So not the price savings you get on DraftKings with the cheaper guys. So I would say that mid-range is where you want to be.
And Scott from Boca X Factor just dropped in. He said he likes Shepard. Look, last week, Scott, I can't remember who it was, but he nailed it. I can't remember what the play was, but I remember it just being completely nailed, and it was nailed like right away. So who did we say last week that we liked, that you liked? I can't remember, Scott. Let me know. But he says he likes Shepard. I'll tell you one thing. I'll promise you I will have 0 Shepard. I don't think if you're playing a showdown, maybe you could play Shepard here. I don't see a way in the world I could play Shepard with Evans back. Sure, it's a revenge game, but is it like even a revenge? Like, I don't know. I just don't think it's relevant enough to be revenge. Maybe I'm missing something on that one, but I cannot get to any of the Shepard today. I did want to give you credit though for your call last week, even though I can't remember who it was right now. I did remember it was an awesome call of somebody that did have a big game. I can't remember who it was. Let me know, Scott, if you have a chance. All right. I'm going to get into some hot takes and then I'll then finish. Look, the hot takes have been unbelievably on fire, except for I had the Seattle receivers last week as my other one. But my first part, remember what I said? I said, well, I can't pick Taysom Hill again. And of course, Taysom Hill, who was in my biggest buy-in lineups, everything, still, it only made me slightly profitable. But I've got a couple guys this week that I think Nico Collins is on the winning lineup this week, I guess would be my first take. I'm going to throw a couple more. I know you hate the hot takes already, but I'm going to throw. And if it's not Nico Collins, it will be Tyreek Hill. Could very well be both of them. And I'm loving the idea of getting to a contrarian Houston's quarterback game stack, not necessarily the running game with Mixon as much. I also think, like, as far as takes go for the day, I would actually consider hiking this Denver. I think Denver's going to beat the hell out of the Raiders today. That's just my feeling. And I think San Francisco will be a little peskier than maybe the projections have. I hope that the Seattle beats Arizona this afternoon because I need my Rams to have a chance and that to put them in a good shot against Philly tonight. That's a really, really good game. And I will say on FanDuel that my take is that there will be somebody from that Philly Rams game, and my bet right now would be Kupp. And if not Kupp, I'm going to say Barkley will be on the winning lineup on FanDuel. Good to see you, MJ. Go ahead, Rody. Any bold takes you have today?
I just put Nico in the chat for the favorite play of the day for the one guy. I was really debating on that. I'm on the Houston and Packers game side as well today. I was debating either Jaden Reed or Nico as my guy for that comment. I went with Nico. I do like Jaden Reed or Josh Jacobs. One of the Packers guys I feel like is my hot take, doing well today. I think, with that D-line comment, I do like Jacobs a lot. I'm going to add a little bit of him, but I think Nico is a great play today. You're really heavy on the Broncos today. I like the Tyreek Hill call that Bobby just had as well. Tua is going to be one of my main stacks with Tyreek Hill, probably Jonnu, and then run it back with probably Demario Douglas or Booty or something, just to keep the game stack tradition alive. You don't have to do that, though. It could be a blowout on one side. You just never know. But, and then on FanDuel, I don't mind a play on that late game. I would probably have to go with you went with Kupp. I'd probably go with A.J. Brown at 8,500. No Devontae Smith. Gets a lot of work in that game. I really like that too.
I like that idea. Either he or Goddard, I think, are both good calls as well. And just for what it's worth, something I noticed, and I wanted to ban FanDuel, but it turns out they did refund people. At least they refunded sheets. I don't know if everybody got their money back. What they did was when they were flirting with the idea of not getting the money back the other day, I was like seriously just about to protest them forever.
They're already on the hot seat, I think, now with everyone not playing as heavy over there now.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think so.
I don't know why they wouldn't have done the refund thing, because that was a mess, dude. They were getting the errors. Well, we were live with Sheets. You guys were live with Sheets doing it live. He couldn't get them in.
Absolutely. It was
ridiculous. Just watch the videos and see that FanDuel was doing all that crap. They're not getting good publicity about that.
Do you want to know what's funny about that, though? I literally was, because I was trying to build a lineup on FanDuel so I could enter a bunch of times, and then I was going to put it into SaberSim and then try and work it from there, and or SaberSim through TrueDFS. But I tried to do it, and I just randomly clicked buttons, and somehow that lineup ended up coming like 200th in the lottery or whatever.
Oh, nice.
I was like, okay, I didn't even know who I played, because I couldn't see anything. It wouldn't do anything except for enter the lineup. It was wild.
Wow. Yeah, dude. I seen some people win big money though, on the FanDuel, because they couldn't change. They had their dummy lineup in, so a bunch of people had dummy lineups. So they entered their MME though, like 50 times.
Oh,
and like they took second place and their line was 50 times duped. So they won like 30 grand or something. Like,
yeah. Oh my
holy
God.
crap,
So
dude.
funny.
People were sending screenshots of 50 entries of the same lineup because they couldn't edit it. Nothing was working, It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
know.
No, it's funny. And we're getting a question here from MC, and he's saying that what do we think about Abdullah? So look, this one may come out to bite me, but I'm well underweight Abdullah. I understand because the pricing, it puts you in sort of a different tier, but I guess I'm not as far underweight as I thought. But I actually like that play better on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings, because if you're going to use it, I guess I would go with it over there. I'm not high on the Raiders today. We'll see how it comes. But like the Raiders and Broncos, long old rivalry, all the things. Sometimes you get the wild games that you don't expect or whatever. I just personally am on the Broncos hammer side. That's my take. I think the Broncos are going to beat them and beat them good. That's where I'm at. So I'm not as high on Abdullah as maybe some of the other people are. All right, before we get out of here, I guess I'm going to throw one more bold take. I mentioned the Collins, I mentioned the Tyreek Hill, but look, if it's not those guys, my other bet is Mike Evans. That's those three low-owned receivers are what I'm doing to differentiate myself for the most part today. Rody, any final takes, and then take us out of here?
Yeah, we're at that time already. I think my final take is I'm going to be under on the Minshew, that Vegas game as well. I'm going to lower them in my sims, and I'm just going to hope they don't go off like everything else is saying. So I'm going to be lower on Abdullah like that question. I'm going to probably lower my Minshew significantly. I'm getting like 40-50% of him. I'm just going to drop that down, and then we're just going to cap him at like 20. And we're just going to roll with that. So that's my hot take. Vegas isn't it today. I'm going to spend up at those QBs. I like brain fart Stroud and Love, and I'm gonna stick to my guns today with those. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be different there, guys. Nico, Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs, Stacks, put them in there, and let's as always, good luck, guys, on Sunday, and let's get it.
Let's go.